Hello and welcome everybody to the Lakers Outsiders podcast. Gary Kessler here with you today, joined by Jacob Root and Grant Goldberg. Man, we've got a lot to talk about. A huge day in the land of the Lakers. So we're just going to dive right on into this. Jacob, I'll start with you. The Lakers make a huge shakeup in the front office. Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak are out. Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka are in. What was just your initial reaction when you heard the news?
Wow. I mean, I expected a front office change at some point when Magic came in, but good Lord, I didn't expect it 2 days before the trade deadline. And I mean, obviously, while the Lakers are in discussions about various trades, they just came out of the Boogie trade discussions. They're obviously negotiating about Lou, and it was just I like Grant said off air, I was practicing very unsafe driving habits because I was driving to the office whenever I got the notification that it happened, and I mean, from then on, it was a wild day. But I mean, I was just stunned that now of all times is when they decided to do it.
Yeah, it was. That was a bombshell, absolute bombshell. It's been a long time since I think the Lakers did something, of that type of magnitude. Whether it was like a blockbuster trade or, whatever. Where they were the talk of the sports world today, and it felt kind of good. It felt good to have the Lakers kind of dominate the headline again. And there's a new regime in place, and it's pretty fascinating to me. But Grant, initial thoughts, man. This can't really. I think nobody expected us to have it happen today or really before the trade deadline. But what were your thoughts?
Right off the bat, holy expletive! What the redacted?
This is a family podcast,
right?
Yeah, my first words were something along the lines of redacted and expletive and stuff like that.
Right. Basic things along those lines. But it's always crazy when you see something like Rob Pelinka trending on Twitter. So you type that name in on Google as soon as you can. But it's been a crazy, wild day, nonstop news. I think, these last few hours have been the only calm ones, sustained throughout the day.
So I'm expecting a Woj bomb here any second now. We're finally all kind of settled down. No, it's been a long day, honestly, and I didn't write anything for the site today. I talked a lot about it on Twitter. But yeah, no, it was just exhausting to really discuss so much throughout the day. But yeah, here we are talking about it some more. But no, Jacob, you've been really optimistic about Magic joining the front office ever since just a couple weeks ago when he was brought in as an advisor to Jeannie Buss. Are you still really optimistic? Are you excited, worried? What are kind of some of the emotions going through your mind with Magic as the president now?
The first emotion I had was just, I don't want to say scared, but to do this move 2 days before the deadline is crazy. They handled the transition, not great, it didn't seem like, but on the other hand, this seems like a move. They hired Pelinka within they basically had him hired about 6 hours after they made the announcement. So This is something that's been brewing. And my thoughts with Magic, I know a lot of people are really kind of scared that he's going to just suddenly blow everything up and trade for Carmelo or whatnot. But, everything he said, even back during his wild media circus, all the way up until today, has been that, this is going to take a couple years, but the youth we have now, we're keeping. He outright said today that people have asked to trade for those young pieces, and he said no. So, yeah, in a way, I'm still optimistic. I'm not against – I love Mitch. I've loved everything he's done. But change to a certain extent, I think, was necessary. My main complaint with all of it was just the timing. I mean, don't do this 2 days before the trade deadline. It might have worked. It seems like it might have worked out. We traded Lou, but I mean, gosh, that's a lot of turmoil to go through when you're days away from one of the biggest days in the NBA season. So I mean, but I will say I tweeted this a couple times. Pour one out for Mitch Kupchak, because I mean, but based on all reports, the Boogie trade was like their last chance for him and Jim to keep their job. Mitch was the one doing all the negotiating, and I mean, if I were in his shoes and I knew my job was on the line, and all it took was trading Brandon Ingram for Boogie, I don't know that I would have had the restraint to not do that deal and keep my job. And he didn't do it. He stuck to his guns. It cost him his job, but I mean, much respect to him, because I mean, he left the Lakers in a much better place than, if he had made the deal. So, but I mean, yeah, in general, I'm optimistic about this new regime. I think change was needed. So, I'm still optimistic. Seems like everything's kind of settled down. This was all in place. I was still not thrilled with how it kind of all went down, but it seems to be working out right now.
Yeah, it's the timing of it is very, very weird. Like you said, with the trade deadline is noon Pacific time on Thursday. So, what are we? I think we're about 36 hours or so away from the trade deadline, and the Lakers, they've got a whole new regime going. And Grant, I mean, I guess, how would you kind of define the reasoning for doing this move right now with the trade deadline so close?
I think the reasoning behind this move from Jeanie and Magic's perspective, basically any time was the right time for them to do it. Jeanie even said herself that, it's something that she's thought about for a long time, and she even apologized for the delay in doing it. So it was really just up to her when she decided, enough is enough, and that was all the time that she gave them.
Yeah, no, it was the way I kind of looked at it was, I don't think they wanted, after the whole Cousins thing fell through, which, again, like you said, Jacob, I give Mitch Kupchak a lot of credit for that, because I think 9 out of 10 people pull the trigger on that deal to keep a job, at least for a couple more months, and then kind of reassess. But, yeah, I mean, that was kind of the nail in the coffin. But I think the Lakers, they wanted to go through this deadline with moves that, they made with this new regime, right? I don't think they wanted to kind of risk either not having a deal done for Lou Williams, and we'll talk about the Lou Williams trade later on, or just maybe possibly a bad trade that they didn't like, getting a player they didn't like, or a draft pick that they didn't necessarily want, whatever the case was. So I think they just wanted to start fresh and start now while they had time with this trade deadline to make some moves and really kind of start the new era for the Lakers. So it's really interesting. It was initially I was shocked at the timing of it. I wasn't shocked at the move at all, because I kind of figured it was coming after the season. But yeah, the timing of it was very, very shocking. And letting go of John Black as well, longtime spokesperson for the Lakers, and kind of the head of their PR. That was really surprising. So the Lakers weren't messing around, but I will say it was nice to see kind of a clear vision, right, and some decisiveness, because we haven't seen it necessarily for a while. And we had talked about this, not on the podcast, but about Jeanie Buss showing, some backbone and making this type of move. And, instead of having Kevin Ding write a bunch of hit pieces on her brother or whatever, just go out and do it. You're the boss, lay the hammer, and that's exactly what she did. So I think, even though the timing, whether you agree or disagree with it or not, I think you do have to respect, she went out and, actions speak louder than words. So
yeah, I have, like you said, I have no problem with the move itself, because as much as I loved Mitch, and we always kind of joke, in Mitch we trust and whatnot, and the writing's been on the wall. There's been a lot of fair criticisms lobbied his way, on a variety of things that we've talked about. It's fair to say that change was needed, but it's also fair to say that, right now is a good time to do it. But yeah, I mean, kudos to her for, like you said, kind of showing some backbone and finally just throwing down the gauntlet. I mean, her brother had a timeline. It was clear that he wasn't going to meet that timeline this year, and she kind of threw down the gauntlet and held him to it. So, I mean, kudos to her, but she has me a little worried right now with how just kind of out of nowhere that came earlier today. So
yeah, the timing really threw me off, because when I initially heard about it, I was questioning whether any trades would happen, because you didn't know who was talking to the other GMs. You didn't know where the team was at in their talks with the GMs in terms of Lou or anybody else they had. And I think Magic did a good job today of covering that in his interview with Spectrum Sportsnet by saying, we're talking to GMs. I'm on the phone with them constantly. I was on the phone before we got on. I'm going to be on the phone after we get off. And not only did they have a deal for Lou in place or in talks of deals, but they also said that's not the only deal that they're going to look at. So that means that they're active. They're interested in other moves. So that's something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, there's like I said, there's a clear vision. They're really being active and really looking to rebuild this thing. And obviously one of the concerns I had with this was, especially with Magic, is kind of fighting that itch to make a blockbuster move in these last moments before the deadline by breaking up the young core and going after a guy like Jimmy Butler or Paul George, even though I don't think either of those guys are going to be dealt, unless it's for a pretty steep price, unlike DeMarcus Cousins the other day. But I was very encouraged with how Magic he raved about the young core. I mean, really said a lot of good things about all of those guys, and I think he kind of understands that that's the foundation that they're going to build this team upon, and I think that's going to be a big selling point. That's kind of what I want to talk about next. That was one of the biggest flaws with Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss, was their inability to lure free agents to the Lakers. And obviously it's tough to do that when you're rebuilding. But I think another thing that kind of factored into that was kind of their personality types. They lack personality, honestly. Mitch Kupchak, as much as I've given him credit throughout the years for having a great poker face, not really tipping anything, never tipping his hand, you can only imagine what a free agent meeting would be like with those two. There's not a whole lot of energy there. And now with Magic and Rob Pelinka, I think that could be the complete opposite. So, I mean, Grant, do you think the Lakers either this summer or next summer will finally be able to get one of those marquee free agents?
Whether they'll be able to get a free agent, I think it's a little more difficult, but they will be a lot more active, and I think we'll see a lot more free agents taking meetings and listening to the Lakers' offers. Mm-hmm. If only we had Anthony to do the Mitch Kupchak voice, but I could only imagine just the dryness of the conversation. And you hear about the front office trying to sell free agents on the life aspect of playing basketball in Los Angeles, living in Los Angeles. And I'm just trying to convince myself that Mitch Kupchak was actually actively trying to describe LA nightlife and activities to incoming free agents.
LA nightlife is undefeated.
Right.
I'm sure Mitch Kupchak doesn't know that firsthand, though.
Right. I'm like, what bingo centers are popping off and things of that sort. So the meetings are going to be a lot different, I feel, and there's going to be a lot more conversation with impending free agents, and I feel more confident going into meetings than I do in past years.
Yeah, Jacob, do you share that same sentiment? Do you think the Lakers are going to spend most of their time, I guess, with kind of the same approach with going after kind of the superstar free agents, or do you think they might look at some of these these second tier guys that they kind of supposedly missed out on, like the Kyle Lowrys and the Isaiah Thomases, guys like that? Do you think that the approach changes, or do you think just kind of the recruiting pitch changes?
Well, you don't go out and hire not even a former agent, a current agent, as your GM without having free agency in mind. In reality, I expect just kind of a totally different approach to free agency. I mean, that has to be kind of the big focus. Like I said, when you bring in a current agent to come in and handle these discussions now. I mean, by all accounts, when Pelinka was first kind of rumored more than when Woj basically tweeted that he was being hired, I was unsure how to feel because, I mean, that's not even remotely a name I or anybody else considered as a GM candidate. But I mean, everything I've read, everything I've seen, I mean, they speak very highly of Pelinka. I mean, some really respected people have come out and said, I think this is a really good move. And I would have to imagine, like I said, that free agency is a big focus for that. I mean, I don't know specifically how different it'll be. I mean, I still think you have to go after those superstars to a certain extent, but I also don't anticipate, like a couple years ago, we went after Carmelo. It was pretty clear we were like the third team on his list, but we still just kind of sat and twiddled our thumbs for 2 more days, it seemed like, and watched. You know, I think that was the summer Isaiah Thomas was a free agent when he was basically begging to come to the Lakers, and we just kind of watched him go and stuff like that. I don't think we'll see that anymore. I mean, I still expect to meet with the big names, but I think we will kind of go after those guys, those kind of B market guys, those kind of role players that we need. And hopefully this also means we're not going to pay $72 million for aging veterans and tie up hundreds of millions of dollars in guys who are not going to be productive members on the team in the future. So from that aspect of it, I like the Pelinka hire. I mean, he should give us a huge advantage in free agency, which is somewhere where, I mean, of all the things, like you said, of all the things we loved about Mitch and Jim, they were really bad at free agency.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to see how Pelinka does with the guys that aren't max contract players, you know, and how, because obviously he's been on the other end of that where he tries to get his client the most money, and now, you know, it's going to be trying to get the guy for the least amount of money. So he kind of understands the other end of that spectrum. So I'll be curious to see kind of how they negotiate some of those guys, and if they are able to get, you know, some guys on good contracts like Lou Williams. Lou was one of the better free agent signings. I mean, honestly, in recent years, probably the best that comes to mind for Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss. But yeah, no, I feel like with Pelinka as a former agent, kind of he'll have a better scope on the market, especially after, you know, having last year's experience, just kind of seeing all the deals that were thrown out. I would assume that we're not going to see any crazy deals for, you know, aging players like Luol Deng and Timofey Mozgov, you know, which makes me kind of wish that we had Pelinka in the front office last year, so we weren't chained to those contracts. But I think, you know, I'm hoping that those types of moves aren't going to happen anymore. Grant, how are you feeling about Rob Pelinka as the new GM of the Los Angeles Lakers?
Well, my number one fear is that they're gonna try to pull some Parent Trap stuff at the press conference and have Rob Lowe come off on stage and shake hands with Magic. But I'm cautiously optimistic.
See if Magic even notices that it's not actually Rob Pelinka.
Just Rob Lowe.
Either way, they're going to be a close personal friend of Magic Johnson, who he's going to be very successful with. But like I was saying, I'm cautiously optimistic. You hear a lot of good things about Pelinka. One thing of note from the Vertical Facebook Live was Woj saying that he thinks he's going to have a very smooth transition from being an agent to being a GM. And you hear how well connected he is around the league. He's a cap guru. So the only thing he's lacking is professional experience, which he's about to get. And, it seems that he's going to be set up for success. I mean, he's got a good assistant GM with Ryan West, and he's got a couple, good up-and-coming executives in Jesse and Joey Buss. So he's got a good team around him, and, they're all going to work with each other as one. Like you said, they presented a vision that they wanted. Magic said that he wants someone that's going to evaluate players and think in the same line of thinking that Magic has. So it's all going to be cohesive. It's all going to be on the same page. So they didn't really give me a reason to be, fearful of any failure. Mm-hmm. So I may be getting my hopes up a little too high, but it's good to be optimistic about it.
Yeah, I think naturally, you worry about a guy that doesn't have, experience as a general manager or as an assistant general manager or whatever. And obviously that's natural because, your first experience as general manager is of the Lakers. Like that's as big of a sink or swim thing that I think I've ever seen. That's just a huge leap into a massive role with a huge responsibility. So, no, I'm a little nervous because, like I said, he doesn't have experience in the front office, but at the same time, one of the top agents out there, and there have been past agents that have, filled a GM role just fine. You look in Golden State right now with Myers, the GM of the Warriors was a former agent, and they're set up pretty well. They've already got one title under their belt. Yeah, one title under their belt, and could be getting another one this year. So who knows? But
at least it's not Rob Hennigan.
No, I'm actually curious. I want to talk a little bit more about Mitch Kupchak, and you brought up Rob Hennigan. I have a friend that's an Orlando Magic fan who actually was asking me about Kupchak, and I would be surprised if Kupchak, if he wants to, I'd be surprised if he isn't in a front office next season because, he's a seasoned veteran. Like, yeah, he's definitely got his flaws, especially when it comes to free agency, but the guy drafted really well. He made some really good trades when he was active. So I wonder if he gets a role like that for where, a GM spot opens up because he has a ton of experience. But I guess just one last shout out to Mitch Kupchak. You guys can share your favorite Mitch Kupchak move. I think we'll all probably agree that the Pau Gasol trade was probably the best move. Are there any other moves that you guys can think of since he kind of took over that really, really helped out the Lakers?
Drafting D'Angelo over her. I don't know if that counts, but drafting D'Angelo over Okafor when everybody thought
that was a pretty controversial move. Sparked a lot of debate. So I think everybody kind of penciled in Okafor, and I was very surprised. Even though there was reports leading up to the draft that they were starting to prefer Russell, I was still very surprised when it happened. But Grant, do you have a move that comes to mind?
Like Jacob said, drafting Russell, even drafting Larry Nance. I know that Mitch put in a lot of time scouting Nance and talking to reps from Wyoming, and so he really found that diamond in the rough. So that's a good chip under the belt. And then signing Carlos Boozer. No, but my number one all time is Pau. I was saying this off air, how the Lakers were close to dealing for Kevin Garnett, but I don't think I'd be as happy, loving and cheering Garnett as I was and still am cheering for Pau Gasol. And I think Pau's gonna always have a special place in my heart.
Oh yeah, Pau was literally like the perfect fit alongside Kobe. I don't know if you could have made a player in a lab that was better to play alongside Kobe than Pau Gasol. Those two were just a perfect fit right from the start, right from the first game. Obviously that's probably got to be Kupchak's number one move. Another move that a lot of people don't talk about. I mean, I guess they kind of do, but his trade for Trevor Ariza. Because at the time it was a move that really flew in under the radar. They were like, oh, this might be a decent trade. And Ariza turned out to be one of my favorite role players for the Lakers, especially that 2009 season. He was just sensational, especially in the playoffs. A lot of big moments, did just a lot of great things for the Lakers in his short stint with them. And I know we all missed him very much, in the first few years after he had left, and I was bummed to see him go. But I loved Ariza as a Laker. That was a really, really good move by Mitch Kupchak, and I'm gonna miss Mitch. I'm gonna miss him a lot. I liked him as a general manager, for the reasons we've said earlier, and I wish him the best. Obviously, Jim Buss is still going to be part owner of the Lakers, and who knows what he'll do in his off time now. But Mitch has been kind of through a tough time here in recent years with kind of his personal life and stuff like that. So, I wish him the best moving forward. Did a lot of great things for the Lakers, both as a player and as a front office executive. So,
I mean, he's been with the franchise for, I believe, 36 years. So, I mean, yeah, he is.
That's like 3 times Grant's lifespan.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I was pretty young when they won their last title, but Mitch has been, it's Stone Age for me that time.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, everybody pour one out for Mitch tonight because everybody's gonna miss him.
That was a bummer. I was bummed to see Kupchak go, but I'm excited about something new and having new faces with new connections and new vision and all that. So, and speaking of the new vision, the new regime got to work right away in their first day on the job. Magic was working the phones and made his first deal. Lou Williams was traded to the Houston Rockets for Corey Brewer and a 2017 first-round pick from the Houston Rockets, which, if the season ended right now, would be the number 27 overall pick. I believe it was reported that it's an unprotected first-round pick, so it'll go over to the Lakers no matter what. So hopefully Houston loses some games along the way the rest of the year, and that pick gets a little bit better for the Lakers. Grant, do you think the Lakers, this is a good deal for the Lakers? Do you think they should have held out for more? I mean, kind of, what were your general thoughts on this move?
I think that the fact that they got a deal done proves it was a good deal. It was kind of obvious they were going to net a first-round pick, but the specific team, the specific terms that were going to be a part of it was really in question. Would I have liked it to be a little higher of a pick? Yeah, but I think a lot of interest in Lou were for later first-round picks, in 2018, or it's lottery protected. And so I think they wanted to go with a sure thing, and the fact that they got a deal done, they got a first-round pick out of it, and to do that with all this turnover in the front office, I think it was a good job, and I think it was a good deal for both teams.
Yeah, one of the teams that was reportedly aggressive in going after Lou Williams was Charlotte, and right now they're projected to have the 12th pick in the draft. So everybody kind of looked at that and was like, "Oh, wow, that would be a great pick to get." I don't think that was really ever realistic. I think it was Arash Markazi said that this was the best deal that the Lakers had on the table. Although I think Ramona Shelburne said they had some better deals maybe earlier in the week. But yeah, no, like if you make a trade for like say Houston's first rounder, that thing is going to be probably pretty heavily protected. And then you might not get it this year. You might have to wait till next year.
Charlotte's.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been a long day.
What did I say?
Houston.
No, did I? Okay. Yeah, it's been a long day. But anyways, Jacob, I mean, they get Corey Brewer in this deal, and he has a very, very similar contract to Lou Williams. The money difference is by a couple $100,000, which, is a lot of money, but in salary cap terms, it's very, very minimal money, and there's 2 years left on it, so 1 year after this season. What do you think he can bring to the Lakers, and what are your thoughts on this pick that they got with him?
I don't imagine Corey Brewer is going to bring a whole lot in terms of on-court production. I haven't really looked into too much into him this year, but I don't really think he was playing a whole lot or at least playing well.
Mm-hmm. Shooting 23% from three.
Yeah, that's not great. Yeah, an effective field goal percentage of 46.3. So, no, it's not I don't think his value is going to be in necessarily on-court production, but I think he can, as a veteran leader, I know I saw a couple tweets right after he was traded. I believe Montrezl Harrell, he said he was going to miss his vet. I mean, he tweeted right away about what a great person the Lakers were getting. Stuff like that. Those are that's the type of contribution I would imagine he would have. But I mean, also, the team's really kind of low on wing players. I mean, I think he'll still get some minutes because right now, I mean, if you're looking at small forwards, Ingram, you have Ding, but he's more of a small ball four at this point. And then you have like Meta, maybe Nick Young. So Brewer can come in and he's averaging 15 minutes a game. I mean, even if he gave you that, I don't know that he'll play that much for the Lakers, but, 10, 12 minutes a game. But like I said, his production isn't really going to be on the court, I don't think. But as far as the pick, I mean, I wrote a little bit about it when the original piece dropped, but I mean, it's really kind of insurance for the Lakers that they get a first-round pick this year, and that, I mean, not having a first-round pick this year in a way kind of stunts the rebuild a bit. So getting one this year, getting another young player to add to this core, I think was important because they're kind of entering the final stages of the rebuild. And this, in a way, this helps him stay the course. It ensures they have at least one pick, and who knows if they end up with the other first-round pick, then it's more ammunition for the new front office to potentially trade for, a player of some sort.
Yeah, draft capital is always a good thing to have. I mean, unless you're Danny Ainge and you just don't ever use it, but. No, I mean, yeah, with their own pick being so uncertain, it's going to be a roughly 50-50 chance whether they stay in the top three or not come lottery night. If they do, they're going to have an opportunity to draft a very good prospect. It's just supposed to be a very good draft, a very deep draft. So having possibly, say, a top three pick and a pick around number 25, somewhere in there, that's tremendous luxury to have. Those are assets too. Like if you want to trade for, established talent, that gives you options, gives you flexibility. And that's something the Lakers have really struggled with in terms of draft picks. They've had to really get lucky in the lottery, and, because of the rest of their draft pick situation, they haven't really had a ton of draft picks to really kind of dangle out there, right? And I think that kind of hurt them with the DeMarcus Cousins deal because they would have had to really break up the young core, I think, to land a deal for him because they obviously don't have so-called future Steph Curry 2.0 Buddy Hield. So the Kings are a weird franchise, but I applaud the Lakers for not breaking up the young core, and now they have another asset at their disposal. But Grant, I think obviously the pick is the most important part of this deal, but another part obviously is just freeing up those minutes for guards like D'Angelo Russell and Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah. I was saying this to somebody on Twitter today that it's a good deal for the Lakers in that they get a pick and it gives them a little more flexibility in their draft and maybe to work other moves. But the main thing is that it frees up more minutes for D'Angelo Russell. And I think the rebuttal was, isn't Russell a starter? And he is, but down the stretch, the team is going with Lou Williams. And so it causes them to, have Russell stay out for oddly long periods of time. So it'll make it more regular for Russell, which I think, get him more in a groove and a rhythm and better suit him to close out these games, whether it be close or a blowout. And I think the pick gives a lot of flexibility for the Lakers. I don't think that Mark Cuban's going to take on a Deng or Mozgov contract with the 27th pick, but it definitely gives the team more options. And I just wanted to say, if we do keep the pick, I'd love to land the second pick and trade it for an established star and see LeVar Ball's reaction.
We're getting a lot of Lonzo Ball comments in the YouTube live chat, and it makes sense. The Lakers could use another guard to go with D'Angelo, and he plays for UCLA. And Magic got to see him in person recently against Oregon, and he stepped up big down the stretch of that game. To me, in this draft, and we won't go too far into this because we could do a whole podcast on the draft and everything, but there's three prospects that kind of separate themselves from the rest of the pack with Markelle Fultz, Lonzo Ball, and Josh Jackson in whatever order you want to put them in. At least that's my opinion in the brief work that I've done with the draft. But having the opportunity to draft any one of those guys would be huge. So, whether it's Lonzo, Fultz, Jackson, whoever, having that pick would just be such a tremendous luxury that gives the Lakers a ton of flexibility and ton of options. And, I think that's what this trade kind of opens up to. And I think Ramona Shelburne even tweeted it out that, you can sugarcoat it all you want, but this was a so-called tank move. Although I don't think the Lakers are purposely trying to lose. I think it's just more about getting those minutes for those young guys. And if you win with the young guys, that's great. That's kind of a confidence builder. And I think it's very meaningful to them. But if they lose, you're increasing your chances at a draft pick, and they're very close to the Suns for that second spot pre-lottery, which would increase their odds by roughly 8 to 10%. I can't remember the exact percentage, but hey, every percent helps. It's a numbers game, and we know all about it. Thanks to the last few years. So,
and just add to just the minutes thing. Lou Williams is averaging the second most minutes in the fourth quarter, 9 minutes, which is basically the entire quarter. I mean, it's only a 12-minute quarter. 9 minutes in the fourth, where D'Angelo was only averaging 6.1. So, I mean, that right there, having D'Angelo close games is something Laker fans have been clamoring for. And kind of, here you go. Lou is averaging 24.2 minutes per game. So I'd imagine a bulk of those minutes will go to D'Angelo. I think a lot of them will go to Clarkson. We'll see him as the point guard with the second unit now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it'll be a little interesting to see now because Lakers don't really have a lot of guards unless you're going to play Calderon or Marcelo Huertas. They could use another kind of true shooting guard.
The defense is bad enough. We don't need to play either of those two.
Yeah.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see. I know Calderon, they've mentioned somewhat as a buyout candidate a couple times. I know that he was, for a while, kind of rumored as someone the Cavs might want. I could see them after Thursday, buying him out and going and grabbing a D-League guy that's more of a wing player, possibly to stick in there for the final, 20. What do we have? 24 games left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're getting a lot of comments on in the YouTube live chat of Paul George and Jimmy Butler. I mentioned this earlier on the podcast for those that have just tuned in recently. I don't think you'll see either of those two being dealt, especially Paul George, just because Larry Bird's kind of made it pretty clear that they're willing to trade their draft picks to bring help to Paul George, right? So they're kind of thinking the opposite. The Bulls have said they're not really entertaining offers for Jimmy Butler, but I think the Kings said that a few days ago, and
Right.
The Kings were going to sign him.
and now,
It takes
now
one
they no
Doc
longer
Butler
have their.
deal, yeah.
So I mean, you never know, but like I said, we're 36 hours away from the trade deadline as we speak. So I wouldn't expect those two. Maybe that's something we can revisit in the off season, and when the Lakers draft pick situation's a little clearer. But
I think that situation becomes far more interesting if the Lakers keep their pick, because I know. I mean, I was gonna say I know Jim said in the past we have too many young players, but he's not here anymore. The having 2 draft picks along with somebody like Clarkson or Randall or something is a lot more enticing, especially if one of the picks is a top 3 pick in this draft that's really loaded with talent. So I could definitely see. I would honestly probably say we'd be more likely to trade the pick if we keep our top pick. I think we'd be more likely to trade it for somebody like a Paul George or a Jimmy Butler than we would be to keep it and draft somebody.
See, I'm and Grant, maybe you disagree with me on this, but I'm in the camp that I don't want to trade for Paul George because he's going to be a free agent next summer.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't want to trade for him. I just think that they will. I mean, if you trade for him, you have the extra year you can offer him, and that's a lot of money to turn down.
I mean, you're giving it to a Clipper fan, though, so you got to prioritize. But I wanted to take a second and just say how much I appreciated Lou Williams' honesty and with the media and how he played this year. I know a lot of people are complain and quip about his playing style, but every night he put it all out there and he carried the team to wins. A lot of the times, and just the way he could go to the line and draw fouls like a magician. He's like the David Blaine or Chris Angel of drawing fouls. So like a lot of people didn't like Lou Williams, and I think that's just because of the fact that he earned playing time over D'Angelo Russell, but he played out of his mind this year, and I think that it needs to be brought up, and there's a reason that he netted what he got in the return.
Yeah, he saved the Lakers from a lot of blowouts this year.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like if the Lakers do keep their pick, if they try and swing a trade. Magic has talked a lot about how this team needs a superstar, a guy they can rely on and kind of focus around and play off of. And I think he said getting that superstar and everything would kind of fall into place a little bit better. So that'll be something that's very interesting to watch. So we'll have to see. We won't know until May if they even have this pick to trade. I guess the one silver lining, the bright side, if they do lose the pick, they'll actually keep their second round pick. So they'll have a late first and an early second round pick. And who knows, maybe they can package those 2 picks and move up a little bit and get a good wing prospect or something like that. So, I mean, we'll see. That's still 3 months away. So, but with the trade deadline so close, we saw Lou Williams get dealt today. Jacob, are there any other kind of deals that you could see happening between now and Thursday at noon on noon Pacific time?
It was interesting. Magic's wording. I mean, he said there were trades being discussed that weren't just Lou Williams. So, I mean, there's ideas out there. I really would be a little surprised if there's any other deal done. I know we've mentioned Tarek Black. He makes a lot of sense to be traded, but it's hard to find a team that could take him at, I believe, like $6 million. Contracts are kind of hard to match up. I mean, he'd be a great guy on like Golden State or something, but I don't know how the contracts would match for that. And then obviously Nick Young, his kind of revival, he actually has trade value now, which is stunning to think. You know, back in the preseason, all we heard was the Lakers were basically begging people to take Nick Young. And now, I mean, the problem is he's a rental. He's going to opt out this summer, or at least he should. He's this summer, so you're only going to get him for half a year. So I think the only reason you do that trade is if somebody blows you away with an offer, maybe a 28 first round pick in a couple years or something, or if you really, really want Russell and Clarkson to get all these minutes going forward, because as it stands, Russell is probably your only true shooting guard, or excuse me, Nick Young is probably your only true shooting guard on the team. And really, I mean, I saw a couple people say this today. He's somebody at this point that I wouldn't mind having back. I mean, it seems like everybody on the team loves him. I mean, at the right price, I don't know that he can be your starting shooting guard on a good team, but having him as a sixth man or seventh man, I guess, depending on Clarkson's role, having him as a sixth or seventh man, I mean, he can come in and knock down shots and really provide scoring off the bench. So I don't think there'll be any trades, though. I would be a little surprised if there's anything else pulled off.
Yeah, I tweeted earlier, I don't know, this is just kind of a gut feeling, but it feels like there's still another move that they're going to make. Something kind of small, like trading Nick Young for a second-round pick or something like that, to just get something for him before he can opt out this summer. And I know he enjoys being a Laker. He's from LA, but he can opt out and make a lot more money. And the Lakers, I don't imagine, would give him a whole lot more, especially if they want to go after some of the bigger names and really try and speed up this rebuild a little bit. But Grant, I mean, do you see Nick Young getting dealt before Thursday's deadline, or do you see another move possibly happening?
I think there could possibly be a buyout of Calderon's contract. Because like I said, Magic said they're looking at all the possibilities at the deadline. So it wouldn't shock me, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think honestly I'd be much more sad to see Swaggy go than Lou. I know we've been clamoring to trade Lou for the longest time, but it came and I kind of took a moment and I was like, damn, I'm gonna miss Lou, and like I'd have that moment with Swaggy, but just like 10 times more. So I don't think it's gonna happen, but it wouldn't completely shock me. I think we'd more likely to see Calderon on the way out, or maybe Tarek in exchange for another player or a different contract. I don't think that anybody's going to net the Lakers the first round pick. I think that ship has sailed with Lou. So yeah, it's going to be second rounds from here, or mid-level players. Yeah,
I mean, I would not be surprised at all if Nick Young gets dealt for just something, say a second round pick, just so they, like I said, so they get something in return.
Value.
Some kind of value. They add some more draft capital. They add another asset, and it's another small piece that they can trade. And I know Sam Hinkie isn't in Philadelphia anymore, but I was going to say, if you have a second round pick, that guy will give you all kinds of things for a second round pick. But
I mean, and those things have been. I don't think this really needs to be said too much, but I mean, those second round picks have been really valuable in the last, 3-4 years. I mean, you've gotten Clarkson and Zubats with them, and I mean, they got Anthony Brown, who was at the time a really good pick. I know. I saw some people today in my mentions kind of talking about how trading Lou wasn't really that big of a deal because it's just a late first round pick. I mean, that late first round pick. I mean, we got one from the Rockets that was Larry Nance. So, I mean, I don't think – I mean, I agree. If you can – if a team's willing to give up draft capital for Nick Young, I think you kind of need to pull the deal because, like you guys said, he's going to opt out and he's probably going to leave the team. So, if you can net some type of return for him – especially if it's draft return with how well this kind of front office has drafted in recent years. That's either going to be a good role player or more assets to throw into a trade. Because, I mean, they also have second round picks, I believe, in 2018 and 2019 coming as well. So they're kind of building a bit of a armory of picks here.
Yeah, they got two future second-round picks from the Jose Calderon deal last summer, one in 2018. I want to say from Denver. I know one of the picks is from Denver, a second-round pick, and then one in 2019. I can't remember who that pick is from. It might be from Chicago themselves.
Chicago.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy, seeing as how many picks that they had to convey, and they still could end up conveying 2 second-round picks. They could give one to Philly this year, and then if that happens, they have to give an unprotected 2019 first-round pick to Orlando. But if they keep the pick this year, then they'll just owe Philly the first-round pick unprotected next year, and then they'll owe Orlando 2 second-round picks, which one would be this year's second-rounder from the Lakers. So that's another big reason to hope that the Lakers keep the pick. Not only would they have a chance to draft a really, really promising prospect, but they'd also get to keep an additional first-round pick, and that's just more, that's more firepower to work with when you're talking about on the trade market. So, no, Grant, I think you said it perfectly. With this whole front office shakeup and all the changes that we saw today, I'm very cautiously optimistic. We hope that Magic's front office track record ends up looking a lot better than his Twitter account. So, not much else needs to be said about that. But anything else you guys wanted to throw out there? You guys want to touch on before we sign off? Because we've talked for a pretty good amount of time here. And I don't want this to drag on too far, but we can talk about this in the next couple of days with the trade deadline coming on. So do you guys have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I have a couple of quick things. One about Magic. He's been very successful in a lot of his other ventures. He's been successful as an owner with the Dodgers and in all of his other business ventures. And
with the Sparks too. I know it's the WNBA,
Sparks, yeah,
but they just won a title.
Right, and this is something he knows that he's been around his whole life. So I think people are quick to write him off because of his Twitter account and how open and public he is with all of his statements. One thing I thought was funny how he said he's not going to leak anything to the media, but he's very transparent in all of his availability today. And second, I tweeted this earlier about D'Angelo Russell that his first year was the Kobe farewell tour with Byron Scott as his head coach, and then this year he's got this whole change of the guard with Magic coming in and Mitch and Jim being fired. Mm-hmm. So it's been very turbulent, and I think he's been successful despite everything that's happening around him. And I think people need to take that into consideration when he's about to turn 20 in a couple days, and he's putting up decent numbers that only certain players have averaged. So I think everything needs to be taken into consideration when evaluating a player like Russell.
You just got to be patient with young players, and especially hopefully this is the stability that the Lakers can finally get to in the front office. Because like you said, now this is going to be for a lot of these guys. It's their second general manager, their second head coach. So having that stability would be great for these guys. They need it. They need just some consistency moving forward. And they're young players. You got to give young players a few years, man. Not every superstar was great right from the get-go. I mean, you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah, the physical tools were all there, but go look at his rookie year and kind of the numbers he put up. They're nothing impressive.
Or even Kyle Lowry too.
Yeah, like you got to give these guys time to develop. They're young players playing in a grown man's league. So, we'll see. We'll see. You definitely have to give them, I think, at least through next year. My kind of general rule with young players is you got to give them 3 years, depending on how young they are. Obviously, if you're a 23-year-old rookie, you're a little more experienced, so you should probably be pretty, a little more effective, I guess, right from the get-go. But when you're entering the league at 18 or 19 years old,
right.
Yeah, you need some time. So,
and not like when you're Buddy Hield or Perry Ellis, 28 years old.
Perry Ellis is a great veteran presence for
right.
That's future Steph Curry, Buddy Hield to you.
He's already wearing Kobe's number.
that number is I don't know any other Kings players that wore number 24. They can't like that number too much. It's not as bad as number 5, right?
Number 5, yeah.
Jacob, anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I mean, just kind of going a little bit off what Grant said. I mean, today was a crazy day. And I think just how quick everything happened kind of took people by surprise. But, I mean, after having time to kind of think about it and just kind of process everything, I mean, I'm very cautiously optimistic about this kind of new regime. The big thing I was worried about was trading Lou Williams. I didn't want this move to affect that, and it didn't. So I think there's something to be said about the passion that Magic has for the Lakers. I know he gets, like Grant said, he gets kind of made fun of it almost. But he wants to see the Lakers be a title contender again. And just kind of that drive is something that not everybody has. I don't know if Mitch or Jim had that. I mean, like we've said, they weren't very public in their kind of personalities. They weren't that kind of outgoing or available. So, I mean, the Lakers are bringing in Rob Pelinka is bold. It sounds like to have Woj say that he thinks you're going to be good means something. So, I mean, I'm optimistic. I think at this point it's a much needed kind of turn of the page for the Lakers franchise. With Luke having come in, now with Pelinka and Magic.
And Ryan West having a big role is going to be
that's very important. Yeah, good point. With Ryan West being there and the younger buses, Joey and Jesse. I mean, this is kind of I guess a new day almost for the Lakers. So I'm excited to see what goes on going forward, and just don't ever have a day like this again, Lakers. This was too much.
Yeah.
I think the new hashtag around Lakers Twitter should be #cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. It's it's nice to get some fresh faces and take it from a Tennessee Titans fan. Once they established a new regime, they started to establish, a winning culture. It's been one season, but had a great first year with a new general manager, and all those kind of pieces in place. So
Seattle
hopefully,
Seahawks too. With
I mean,
Carolina
sometimes that's what it takes. Changing the culture, changing the regime, and hopefully that's the effect it has on the Lakers. But okay, so we're gonna go ahead and sign off now. We've been going for about an hour here, man, and I feel like we could talk for another hour on this. There was so much to process today, but we'll have another podcast up on the day of the trade deadline. Like I said, that's Thursday at noon Pacific time. That's when GMs put their pencils down, moves are in, and we'll see if the Lakers, have any more plans before then. So, Jacob, Grant, I want to thank you both for joining me today. I know it's been a long day for everybody with the site on LakersOutsiders.com, for Laker fans in general. If you like the podcast, you can always subscribe to us on YouTube and on iTunes. You can always find the podcast on LakersOutsiders.com. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at Lakers Outsiders. Also on Instagram at Lakers Outsiders. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. The YouTube live chat is still it's popping right now. I love it. We always appreciate the feedback as we're going. We try and kind of get to everybody, but man, this thing is just flying by. So thank you to everybody that tuned in. Like I said, Thursday, expect another podcast up, and hopefully we'll have another trade to talk about. But for Jacob Rude and Grant Goldberg, this is Gary Kester, Lakers Outsiders, signing off. Until next time.